Hello, thanks for joining. I know it's been a while, but I have reclaimed my yoga space, and my intent is to make more yoga videos on a regular basis. So here's to getting started. Today we're going to be focusing on letting go. Many times when we hear letting go, we think of having no reaction. However, that is an unrealistic expectation for us as humans. We're naturally going to respond to things around us. And we truly don't want to have no reaction, as no reaction could actually put us in danger at times. So when I'm speaking of letting go, what I am referring to is the clinging, the attachment, the belief that much of our suffering comes from clinging, be that to our pain or to even the good moments, because we worry when they're going to end. How long is this going to last? So often with our suffering, we feel like it's going to continue on forever. And with the more joyful moments, we worry when they are going to end. So during today's practice, I invite you to just notice that urge. Maybe when something feels uncomfortable in the body, maybe you have that urge to move away from it, that you want to move out of the posture or move on to something else because maybe it just doesn't feel as good as maybe some other things do. Then there might be some postures that you feel like you're not ready to move on from because they do feel better in your body. Just notice that, trying to let go of judgment, but as a practice to recognize when that clinging, that attachment comes up for us. A common example that I think of with the clinging to joyful moments is when we are on vacation. You may relate to immediately starting your vacation with a countdown of, oh gosh, we only have 6 days left, we only have 5 days left. And the problem when we do this is it keeps us from actually being present in that joyful moment because we're so focused on when it's going to end. So during today's practice, I invite you to just be with what is, attempting to let go of any attachment. Maybe you try something that you wouldn't typically try, even if that's just adjusting your environment in a way that maybe your window blinds are open as you participate in this practice, and just experimenting for yourself. But ultimately, this is your practice. I'm simply the facilitator. Your body is your number one teacher. So always listening to your body, remembering that yoga is about finding our edge, but not surpassing it. So with that, I invite you to find your easy seat. If you find that the knees are floating in the air, if you do have blocks, you can bring in the blocks to support the knees, or if you would rather not, that's okay. You can also use blankets or pillows. I prefer the cork blocks if you are going to purchase blocks. I just like that the cork blocks are heavier, so they're sturdier than the foam blocks, but that's just a personal preference. It's not right or wrong. As I said, you can use blankets or pillows, whatever you may like, but if you use the blocks, allowing them to just lay the angle of the legs so that they're not digging in on that corner. And once you settle into that seat, allowing the spine to just grow nice and long, crown of the head coming towards the sky, taking a few deep breaths. At this time, maybe you want to set an intention for today's practice, maybe not. But if you do set an intention, keeping in mind that an intention is not a goal. It's not about achieving it or not achieving it or getting it right or wrong. It's simply inviting something we want to cultivate more of in our life. At times, maybe that even includes letting something go. Sometimes that letting go includes letting go of our expectations, of those shoulds. We often should ourselves a lot, and those shoulds come with a lot of judgment. So now that we're settled in, taking a few deep breaths, let's inhale those arms up and overhead, allowing the gaze to follow. As we exhale over to the left, that left hand is going to act as an anchor to keep that right hip grounded on the mat. We're reaching over that right ear with the right arm, creating space along the right side of the body, breathing in to that space we're creating between each of the ribs. We'll spend a couple of more breaths here. On the next inhale, coming back to center, and we'll exhale over to the right. So again, that right hand is our anchor to help keep the left hip from floating up off the mat. So it's not about how far we're bending here, it's just about creating that space along the side of the body, sending the breath into that space. We'll inhale back to center. As we exhale, just allow the palms to come out in front of you as you come up onto the knees. So we're coming into all fours here. So we have our knees under our hips, our wrists under our shoulders. If you have tender knees, you can bring in a blanket here under the knees, or you can roll up your mat to create a bit more cushion for your knees. If this is too much tension in the wrist, or maybe you just want to see how it would feel to take that deep bend out of the wrist coming up onto fist. So choosing what works for your body, and maybe you have the tops of the feet on the mat, or maybe the toes are tucked. See what your body needs here. As we inhale, we're going to send the hips towards the sky, belly towards the earth, crown of the head towards the sky. As we exhale, tucking the hips, rounding the spine, bringing the head and neck through the shoulders. So your breath will guide your pace. As we inhale, the belly's coming towards the earth. As we exhale, we're rounding the spine. You can always choose to spend more than one breath in either posture. And once you do one more full round of that cat-cow, we'll meet back up in that flat back. Met back up in that flat back, we're going to take a bit of a twist here. So we're going to extend through that right leg. And finding our roots in that left hand, we're going to extend the right arm towards the sky. Gaze can follow, or you can just keep the gaze towards the wall, keeping in mind that if the gaze follows the fingertips, we're really letting the eyes do most of the work. Don't want to compromise our neck. So a couple more breaths here. We'll exhale back down to the mat. And what we do on one side, we do on the other. Always working towards balance in the body. So we're going to extend through that left leg, finding our roots in the left palm, inhaling, right arm towards the sky. Again, gaze can follow or stay straight towards the wall. Exhale back down. So from here, tucking those toes if they're not already tucked, spreading those fingertips nice and wide, preparing for our first downward dog, imagining that someone has a string connected to your hips, pulling you straight towards the sky. So the spine is nice and long, inviting some movement into the legs. This is our first downward dog of the day. So maybe one leg bends, then the other. Maybe both knees bend deeply. Working our heels towards the mat. You may notice some tightness along the backs of the legs. So our arms are nice and long. Our gaze is coming back towards the feet. You may notice more tightness if you do a lot of repetitive movement like running, walking, biking. You can also walk the feet a little wider. It can sometimes give you a bit more space as you're working your heels toward the mat. They do not have to be on the mat though. So from here, finding our roots in that right leg, we're going to extend our left leg towards the sky. As we exhale, left knee is coming towards the chest, bringing that left foot to sit in between the hands. So this is a time where maybe it would feel helpful to have blocks. So you have your 3 settings. This is the middle setting, the lowest, and the highest. However, blocks are not required. We're here in this runner's lunge. We have that left knee over the left ankle. And then on that next inhale, we're going to allow that right foot to settle down onto the mat, inhaling our torso up. So those right toes are coming towards the right side of the mat, left knee over the left ankle, shoulders are near parallel the front of the mat. From here, inviting your arms where they would like to go. Maybe it feels best to keep hands on the hips, maybe cactus arms, steeple, whatever feels best. This is Warrior 1. Embracing the strength. Noticing any desire to cling. Sometimes if we're feeling challenged by our balance, we may physically cling with our toes to the mat. So just see if you can lift your toes. On that next exhale, coming back to the blocks or the mat. And we're going to step back into downward dog. Again, inviting any movement. Once you're settled into the posture, finding our roots in that left foot as the right leg extends towards the sky. As we exhale, drawing that knee towards the chest, bringing the foot to settle in between the hands. So again, we're in this runner's lunge. And then we will allow left toes to settle down onto the mat, coming towards the left side. As we inhale, our torso upright, keeping right knee over the right ankle, shoulders coming near parallel the front of the mat. Again, deciding where you want your arms to go here. Continuing to breathe, keeping in mind, if we're not breathing, it's not yoga. That next exhale, framing that right foot once again, stepping back into downward facing dog. From here, we're going to drop the knees down on the mat, coming down to our elbows. hands on the mat, you can come to fist, or even if you want to bring the hands together. I like to use my hands as an anchor, but from here, we're going to leave our forearms on the mat, tucking our toes as we come in to dolphin pose. So much like downward dog, but we're on our forearms. You can invite some movement. Maybe notice the urge to want to force the heels to the mat. From here, we're going to go into plank pose. Taking a couple of breaths in plank. Then walking our feet back to dolphin pose. Taking a couple more breaths. And exhaling. Knees back to the mat. Bringing the hands under the shoulders. From here, we're going to come on to our bellies. Move my blocks, you can see my arms. Again, we're on our forearms. Legs are nice and long. As we take a few breaths in this baby cobra. Being mindful of our lower back. You don't want to push so hard that you're compromising the lower back. We're really not pushing here, just holding the torso up. From here, coming back into our tabletop. And you can keep the knees close together or bringing them a little wider. And you bring your hips back towards your heels. Maybe your hips sit on the heels, maybe they're floating. You can allow your head to come down to the mat with your arms extended. If you have a block or a blanket or pillow, you can also bring that under the head. That fits better for you. Just there on the forehead, adjusting so it doesn't feel uncomfortable. But we're going to just take a few breaths here. Noticing any urge to try to force the hips back to the heels. I noticed that urge for myself. A knee surgery several years ago has made that harder, but it's getting closer. I have to really remind myself to not force myself into a shape just because I think that's what it's supposed to look like. Even as yoga teachers, we do those things as well. So inhale back into that tabletop. From here, we're going to push up into downward dog, walking the feet towards the hands, coming into a forward fold. You can allow the knees to bend to support the torso as much as you would like. Most importantly here, we want the head and neck to relax. Sometimes we're tempted to try to look around. Again, you can always bring a block in here as well. We're going to bring the hips back, coming into chair pose. So just as if you're sitting in a chair, we have those arms extended forward. The thighs may start to burn or shake. Notice that desire to move away from what's uncomfortable. inhale to standing. Coming into mountain pose. So with mountain pose, our feet are settling under the hips, rolling the shoulders up towards the ears and down the back. Palms are coming towards the front of your mat, or the side if you're using your mat as I am. Crown of the head is coming towards the sky. I'm just taking a few breaths here. Maybe utilizing this opportunity to reconnect with the intention you set earlier in the practice. Or maybe you utilize this opportunity to set an intention if one has arisen and did it earlier. Or maybe you just want to notice being on your mat. We're going to inhale those arms up and overhead, coming into a gentle back bend. As we exhale into that forward fold. So you want the length of your mat here. We're going to step back into a plank. Body nice and long. Sometimes our hips really want to float up towards the sky. Just trying to be mindful of that. Whenever you're ready, allowing the knees, chest, and chin to come down to your mat. Spend just a moment or two more in this baby cobra. Maybe you notice thoughts arising when we revisit posture. Maybe you don't. It's just noticing. Attempting to let go of judgment, let go of expectations. Most importantly, being aware of our urge to cling. It's perfectly normal, but in building our awareness, then we can better manage that. So from here, just going to make our way onto our back. So checking in with where you are on your mat, so that your head can be supported by your mat. The knees are bent, feet around hip width apart. And we're just going to windshield wiper the legs. As we exhale, they drop towards one side, inhale back to center, exhale to the other side. We'll continue windshield wipering the legs. To center. We'll inhale both soles of the feet towards the sky. As we exhale, using the strength of the core to slowly lower the legs. And if you want to add a little challenge, when you're right above the earth, inhaling back up. And then slowly exhaling, allowing the legs to come all the way down to the mat. So at this time, settling in to what we call Shavasana, your final rest. So maybe you're just simply on your back, as I am, with your palms open, the feet turning away from one another. Sometimes it can feel nice to bend the legs. That can take some pressure off the lower back. If you have a wall nearby, you can allow your legs to come up the wall. That's also a nice posture as we're reducing anxiety or preparing for bed. Or you can also come to your side here, but choosing your resting posture. We'll spend several minutes in this posture. You can allow the eyes to close if that feels comfortable, or even just a soft gaze. It's also nice to have lower light. And as you settle in, I will share a reading with you. So this is a poem from Sapphire Rose. It's one I've shared many times, revisit many times, as I said. It may or may not connect with you. Just notice what may arise as you continue to settle into your final rest. And this poem is written with feminine pronouns, but in your mind you can replace the pronouns however best fits you. She let go without a thought or a word. She let go. She let go of fear. She let go of the judgments. She let go of the confluence of opinions swarming around her head. She let go of the committee of indecision within her. She let go of all the right reasons, wholly and completely, without hesitation or worry. She just let go. She didn't ask anyone for advice. She didn't read a book on how to let go. She didn't search the scriptures. She just let go. She let go of all the memories that held her back. She let go of all the anxiety that kept her from moving forward. She let go of the planning and all of the calculations about how to do it just right. She didn't promise to let go. She didn't journal about it. She didn't write the projected date in her day timer. She made no public announcement and put no ad in the newspaper. She didn't check the weather report or read her daily horoscope. She just let go. She didn't analyze whether she should let go. She didn't call her friends to discuss the matter. She didn't do a 5-step spiritual mind treatment. She didn't call the prayer line. She didn't utter one word. She just let go. No one was around when it happened. There was no applause or congratulations. No one thanked her or praised her. No one noticed a thing. Like a leaf falling from a tree, she just let go. There was no effort. There was no struggle. It wasn't good and it wasn't bad. It was what it was. And it is just that. In the space of letting go, she let it all be. A small smile came over her face. A light breeze blew through her, and the sun and the moon shone forevermore. Here's to giving ourselves the gift of letting go. So I invite you to spend a few more breaths in your final rest, giving yourself that intentional pause before you move forward with the next part of your day, your evening, your morning, whatever it may be. And then whenever you're ready, beginning to invite some gentle movement back into the body. Maybe you make your way to the right side, eventually making your way back to that easy seat, Sukhasana, where we first began our practice today. And once we all meet up in Sukhasana, we're going to inhale those palms up and overhead one last time, allowing the gaze to follow, allowing the thumbs to brush the forehead, asking for kind thoughts, allowing the thumbs to brush the lips, asking for compassionate words, eventually allowing the palms to rest at the heart, asking for compassion and kindness. I sincerely thank you all for sharing in this practice with me. Namaste.